Well, as we slip into the 9 a.m. turn, the Russians managed to pull back with these couple of units up here. And yeah, I'm trying to zoom in, I know. No, probably. Anyway, pulling back a little bit, great. They got that first activation to be able to do that. Then the French got the next activation. They got a double. So they moved forward with their Saxons and with the 8th Corps. I kind of wanted to bring this guy in. But he's got to cross the stream. That's too far. That's 2 movement points right there, I think. So he couldn't get into play. So I'm launching an attack. Now this is from way back in the area instead of forward, so that I don't get, I think, the flank attack. At the very least, it protects me from a flank attack. I was looking at some really good numbers there. I think 26-8. If I checked the flank attack, it could have gone down to 24-8. That looked really good. The Russians are going to intercept with their cav if they can. Now the average morale of this stuff is a 4, so they've got to break that. Ooh, that isn't going to do it. I was hoping to smack this. The odds aren't that great. I'm only at like +1. But I have a higher bonus in cavalry and higher morale cavalry, etc. I might have been able to chase those Saxons off, but that's not going to be able to happen. So now the French are going to be able to launch their attack here because I allowed these guys to go forward. The Guard could have intercepted there. The Guard actually could intercept here conceivably, but it's pretty weak. That Guard cav, it doesn't really have a chance of dislodging this. It may have made a good secondary unit to throw into that same attack over there, except it's too far away, I think. I'm not sure. You might be able to intercept with him too. Anyway. Without this thing coming in, I'm going to have to suffer the attack on my position there. Well, it's all easier said than done. You know, it looked really trivial to just back those Russians out. But because they can't all move at the same time, little deformities show up in the line, weak spots are there, things are opening up where the French line isn't stretched as much, now that they have an extra couple of units especially, where they can actually launch an attack with the Grenadiers here. Now they've already lost a Grenadier step, but slammed in and took this space from the Russians as the Russians are pulling back everywhere. They've done, this unit was lost due to artillery fire on the withdrawal, and we had another artillery hit, I think, over here. Took something else out, maybe? I'm not sure. But yeah, the Russians are withdrawing, but this is not a painless thing. It looked to me like the way the system worked, I thought they'd just be able to get out of there real nice and easy. It is not that simple. It is not that simple at all. I've noticed good old Grucci got himself a little out of command here. I put a marker on him. In a way, the Russians were kind of worried about him and ran away from him. They probably shouldn't have been. I kind of want them where they're heading, but there was some thought of, hey, if he comes down any further, we're going to light up his day, because we have a lot of cav over on this flank, and there's just not much here. The French are kind of anchored here on the hilltop. They've pulled down from it and moved into here, where they took some artillery fire. It looks like we're pretty close to done with this turn. There's still some Russian things that can be done, but for the most part, I'm really looking at an enormous traffic jam if I'm not careful. Already as it stands, units like this, I can't activate really. I could pull them back one space, but I can't pull them back very far without disrupting my line. I've got to pull in from the edges towards where my bridges are and try to get back across the river as fast as possible. At this point, I just want to get across the river. I'm not even counting victory points to see what happens. It's beginning to look kind of ugly, I think. I'll probably start to do that at some point to see if there's a last defense around for Friedland that I can manage. Okay, that finishes up the 9 o'clock turn. Move into 10 o'clock. We got some more 8th Corps stuff coming on. Russians have pulled back a little bit. Hey, I haven't rolled for the pontoons. Oh, this guy actually has a pontoon. He would have gotten to move. I had an activation left, I'm sure. I'll put him there. I don't want to get too far. But this guy gets a roll. Yeah, it's not going to create it. Okay, but we can see the Russians are falling back. They are taking some losses. I have to do some quick calculations on that. I'll tell you one thing. I've given up trying to figure out if I'm playing the game right or not. I've just sort of taken some hints from maybe online about how to define the commands, made some decisions that aren't totally handled in the rules about, hey, the cav are going to be part of that command or they're not or whatever. And I'm having a kick. I really am. As soon as you get rid of that annoyance factor and just kind of, if I screw up because the pieces, I can't see what the counters are, I can't see, so what? You know? I mean, seriously, play it like you would. This is not an ultra-realistic game. I had some thoughts that it might be with the complexity of the rules, that I may be missing a whole bunch. I don't think I am. I think it's actually a fairly simplistic game where you make a few actions each turn that count. It certainly is not one where you're doing a lot of stuff with each piece. But what I'm saying is, I don't think that there's a lot going on here that that you can constantly make things work like you can in a lot of tactical battles. For example, if I'm playing, I don't know, say the NBS series, like Talavera or Marengo. If I'm playing one of those games, I don't care what my situation is, I can launch an attack, okay? And it'll be effective. I get my fire combat, this, that, and the other. In this, you can launch an artillery fire, but the infantry attacks, the real assaults, no, you can't do them unless you have the numbers. But you don't have to. It's not like the Napoleon's Art of War stuff where you get trapped in and you have to roll lots of dice. Here you have the option whether or not you want to fight. It's also pretty big what happens to you if you stand back, if you get attacked. That also, I was under a mistaken impression from looking at the rules, thinking about the game a little bit. Actually playing it really is showing that this is a nice light system. Nice enough. I didn't want to tell anybody this, but there was a fairly cheap copy of one of the games in this series, the Allow one. There's a number of cheaper copies of the Napoleon in the Desert one, but that didn't get very good reviews. But the Allow one is the next one in the series from this, and I kind of wanted to make my decision. It's part of why I played it. My first thought when I saw the discussion on the board was, hey, I want to buy that. And I said, wait a minute. Let's give this a try. It's a buckets of dice system. Well, this one isn't. And there's this weird area movement. Let's see how it works. Well, it works well enough that I'm having fun. I'll get to more on the review. But yeah, you know, as soon as I cleared away and said, the hell with my annoyances, I'm just going to play this. You know, I'm not going to worry about trying to get things right. I don't think I can figure out the rules. I don't think I can figure out everything absolutely. But when I just get down to rolling the dice and moving the pieces and playing it, it works out pretty well. Well, it all works very well when I don't leave Len, or as I prefer, Linnae. Yeah, I like to butcher things. Sitting out there in front of a bunch of Russian infantry. He's fine here. He was the last guy I moved along with good old Grouchy. So, he's still got him in command. We do have an out-of-command Russian cav. And we had the battleship showing up to indicate that there's wind again. Ruh-roh. So, I gotta pull these Russians out. If I get a double move, I can slip them out this way. But I can't move this guy through here. Stacking limitations apply during movement. I thought about that as I started to move him, and I said, oh, that's not going to be good. This is a real problem. I can use my cav to try to search out this ford here. That might let me through safely. Otherwise, I can hope to get a double move to get out of there, which is, I think, what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to start pulling back maybe on this flank or something. We'll see. All right, while it's on my mind, I did a quick calculation. Russians are at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1/3 points. In order to win this scenario, I have to find the victory point. We're right about there, okay? Now remember, if I don't get above 9 French steps, then they get an extra level. And for the French, 2, 4, 6 and a half, essentially, losses. The Russians have to cause some more damage to the French. The French could let the Russians go at this point and get a victory. However you want to see that. I think the French feel like they have enough strength that they want to keep punching forward. They see the Russian position trying to get out of here. But it is not a cakewalk for the Russians here. Okay, so now I'm blowing hot and cold about the command roles again, having sat down, after having made kind of the decisions and said, fine, the hell with it. I'm just going to play this. Well, I think I was playing it wrong. For example, I look up scenario 2 by infantry division or cavalry division for activations for the French, and I think I was moving, say, the Polish with their Polish cav. That's not allowed, and if you can combine units like that, you get a lot more weight and you probably can press the opponent harder. Certainly, though, the Russians, let me see theirs again, and here I am making my way over the same old ground again. Each unit located by division in the division brigade band. The exception is, and then this one. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. You know, I mean, there's no clear. The French one, I think there were cases where I was moving units that are more than the division. I was moving the cav along with the infantry, but maybe not many. I don't think I made any ground with that. I may have done it with the Saxons and the Poles, and I've got to remember to keep them separate, that's all. Anyway, I'm having a hard time right now because I got a single unit move forward, and the Russian line has become solid enough that it's actually tough to hit it anywhere with just one unit. I moved these cav forward under Grucci, but I kind of wanted to make an attack somewhere, and I'm also kind of worried. 1, 2, 3, yeah, I guess I still got them in range for next turn. Well, the French pushed an attack with their grenadiers against this hill position. Now, I forgot there was a hill there and set up for the attack and thought I was going to just blow it and not take one. But I ended up with a pretty decent number, around a 14, so I rolled, took some losses, gave some losses. I took another grenadier point that I didn't really want to lose, but it's only a 1-point unit. But these artillery here are stuck here, which means if I advance, they're stuck because it's hill. They couldn't have possibly gotten there in the course of a scenario. So I don't know why they set up there. And then I can push forward. Except not with my artillery. With everything else. And we better move Lanay, or Lan, because if we don't, I'm leaving him there. That artillery is kind of exposed anyway. Maybe I can protect it with the cav. But essentially, I've used this and this heavy cav to push in deeper there and kind of knock the Russian center back. It's also thinking about an attack on the flank. I got an infantry cav combination. That's a powerful combination for the French. They can't really do anything without at least that. But I've got a couple of attacks I want to make. And this was one of them. Okay, kind of ugly situation happening here. I move Mortier over, swinging around 1, 2 into here. I have to find a force of that in this. From what I understand of movement, you move each stack individually, but this is part of the moving force, so it's available for a countercharge. That's important to keep track of because I got a successful charge with this. Now this is a fairly decent sized stack of cavalry. The infantry here, Mortier was planning on hitting from behind or from the flank there and trying to break the Russian side, trap these units, and cause some real problems over there. There are problems from my side as the French because that means I'm going to have to swing, I guess, this command into place here to keep some continuity, and then there's this big gap in my line, which the Russians could definitely take advantage of. Alternatively, I could just move forward here and leave these guys in the more risky exposed position. I'm not thinking too carefully here. Probably a mistake. But anyway, I've got this counter charge because the Russians don't like what's going on, or this charge. I've succeeded in the morale roll, but now the question is, do I want to send this doinky cav force to face that alone? Or is that just going to compound my problem? In a sense, the Russians making a charge against this infantry is a mistake, I think. There's a lot of strength here compared to the Russians. I'm going to see how it works. I'm not going to countercharge or make an attempt because I think this is a lot weaker. But basically, I'm still testing out this system to see how it reacts to things. And it feels a little funny here. I like something like the recently done stuff that I did with the musket and pike, where each cav unit is peeling off an enemy cav at a time, or whatever in that kind of circumstance, where there's actually some reason for the fight. This fight, I don't think that there's any reason that the French can win it. They've only got like 3 strength points of cav here, but they've got these guys, but I can't use them. They're not in the same area, and they're not part of the moving force, so they can't play. Oh god. Okay, well, this is something of a learning game, but I don't want to do this attack. When I calculated out this attempt of the cav to break up an infantry advance, and this is pretty much what should be possible. At least it should be able to blunt an infantry advance. Well, that infantry unit's too big. My numbers come out to the cav at 9, and that's a big cav force, about as big as the Russians have. Cav at 9 to infantry at 17. This is not working out like a Napoleonic battle. I can't threaten broad movements with my cav. I can't do anything with them. Again, I'm getting the feeling as I did before, although I am buying the other one. It's too late now, I already paid. That this is not much more than Napoleon at Waterloo, you know, in terms of what you're getting out of the game. It might be a fun little game, but it's not giving you a lot of insight into Napoleonic combat. And the French successes over here, they broke the big unit there and drove the rest back. But they don't want to advance into here. If they do, they'd be, stuck in the middle of units facing God knows which way. You can't just jump into a hole like that. It's not safe at all. Alright, well, let's put an activated marker on the guys who did that and try to figure out where to go from there. And the Russians pretty much ran out however many commands they have. I'm not sure how many, because I don't know if this is one big thing or multiple or whatever. But that's okay. I've been treating it as multiple. Maybe it's ones. It's just not something I can keep track of. Each unit, what the fuck that. Anyway, the French filled this in. Stretched out this Saxon again. Now that's really terrible because I could attack this so easily and cause a step loss from it that it may be worth sticking around to do that. The problem is sticking around to do that may mean the destruction of this entire force because I've got a lot of weight on that. So unless I can follow up with an attack to try to turn and break that center there, and that's possible. This may all come down to who gets the initiative next turn. Because there's a big hole right here. Now, I could throw a little grenadier in there or something on my turn. I don't know. As the Russians compact more and more, the French seem to be spreading out more and more. Alright, I'm going to load this one up. We got possibility of rain next turn. And then I'll do the cleanup stuff.